paternity fraud is rampant in the shared parenting community.
So this is Mark Ludwig. He's one of the leaders or one of the guys out there in the father's rights movement that really doesn't even exist, and pushing for shared parenting, which won't work, and I'm going to prove these things just by logical deductive reasoning. And what I want to point out is he has a few series of videos, and I'm stitching, and it looks like the Tough Dad posted this. I think the Tough Dad doesn't like me because I've called him out for just whining and crying about stuff and not wanting to fix anything, which is fine. Everybody can whine and cry if they want, but why would you hate on me after I got full custody, or hate on dads who are fighting for full custody and fighting the right way, and dads who lose? I mean, my biggest haters are dads who have lost in court and don't want to fight. And they get on my page like, I don't need to spend another $100,000. You idiot. My page isn't about using an attorney. It's about fighting without an attorney, like I did when I got full custody of my daughter when she was 7 months old. And then I show you my winning court orders. How many of these father's rights advocates are out here showing actual wins in court? So let's talk about Mark Ludwig. Even though everything he's saying in this video is on point, because he's talking about the administrative side of child support, Title 4D, and the collection of it. We should eliminate division of child support. Actually, family court, if you really want to get down to it, family court in and of itself is unconstitutional at its core. But if you don't get a court order giving you access to your kid, the mother can just go in the mother underground and you might never see your kid again. So there's kind of a lesser of two evils in that situation. But getting rid of division of child support isn't going to get rid of child support orders in the court system. You got to go through the legislature to undo legislative laws. Dads Against Discrimination had a great answer. They wanted laws that with a rebuttal presumption of custody to the fathers. And that would solve all the problems, because the real deadbeats would say, no, I'd just give custody to the mom. And then the good dads would just keep their kids. But here's the problem with Mark Ludwig, and it's the problem I talk about all the time. This guy sounds really good and all nice, and he's a big warrior for the father's rights movement. I don't know if he's with the TFRM. Father's Rights Movement, for those of you who don't know, is a bunch of, mostly that I've seen, they have a website and they have a bunch of pages on Facebook filled with guys who lost in court, and they give loser legal advice to people on those pages, including, like I've said in another video, they'll advise you to give your kid back to a pedophile. I was on the Idaho Father's Rights Movement page. My dad said, my baby's mom's boyfriend is molesting my daughter. I don't want to give her back. And this guy said, well, you have to, you can get in trouble with the law. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? You have to give your kid to a pedophile. Because I was telling him, don't. And then this guy pointed out the law said that you can get in trouble. It's a misdemeanor or felony in Idaho if you don't give your kid back with a court order, if you withhold them for a long period of time or something like that. But then it says, unless you're doing it to protect the child's safety. And so the law that the guy cited, or the guy was saying, well, the law says this. The guy didn't even read the law. That's how retarded my gender is. So that's the father's rights movement for you. And if I go on there and say, why don't you go for full custody? Oh, I don't want to take the kids away from the mom. Look, you numbnuts, if you had full custody of your kid, then you have control of your kid. And dads are more reasonable with our kids. We don't play the baby mama drama games. Now, there's some narcissistic dads who are keeping their kids away from the mother. But if you have control of your kid, you can let the mother see the kid anytime you want, because you're the custodial and decision maker. Duh. How come my numbnuts gender can't think of that? That's second grade level deductive reasoning. I don't want to take the kids away. I don't want to go for custody. I had a guy in the comments, he was saying the mother's a narcissist. I told the kid she's a narcissist. I'm like, okay, time to fight and go for full custody. He goes, well, I don't want custody. Why would you not want to rescue your kids from a child abuser? So anyway, Mark Ludwig, he's on point with, he's educated about child support. He's educated about the statistics about absent fathers. He's educated about, he has a great post where he says on Halloween, he has this really great post where he says, kids say this to dad when they're 8 years or younger. Dad, look at me. Dad, watch me. And he was saying, it was Halloween last year, somebody was saying, this Halloween, 12 million kids aren't going to be able to look at their dad and say, hey, Dad, look at me. Look at the costume I'm in, or whatever. And that was a very poignant, touching post. But that being said, and that's why he's probably beloved in the father's rights movement, because all this stuff. But here's All the problems they're talking about, child support, alienation, contempt, all that stuff, all those things are almost completely resolved if the father gets custody. So why would you not go for full custody? The mother's always going for full custody. Oh, it's blasphemous for me to ask for full custody. How dare I? Or the father's rights movement punks, they'll say, well, we wouldn't stoop that low and go for full custody. Again, you numbnuts. The women do the alienating. The women do the contempt. If they lose control, then you can be gracious and loving and let them see the kids as much as they want. If a mother gets control, you're never going to see those kids a minute over the parenting plan. Again, second grade level deductive reasoning. My sister with Down syndrome can figure this out, but my gender can't, because we have a bunch of feminine, guys with egos with feminine emotions. Mixing that in, it's not a good combination because they're stuck on their ego and their feminine, energy. So Mark loves, stroking himself and flexing his muscles and puffing his chest, saying, oh, we got 50-50 passed in Missouri or wherever the last state was. But let's look at the 50-50 stuff. And let's look at how the fearless leader, let me make this point first. Mark's out there talking like fathers have been talking for 60 years. 60 years. We're going to change this. We're going to reform. Let's fix this. Let's fix that. Let's fix this. This is what's wrong with the system. Whine, cry, piss, moan. Whine, cry, piss, moan. I'd rather just get custody of my kid and live my life. Now, I was dragged in and out of court because I had probably the most aggressive, craziest attorney that you'll ever see in your life, opposing attorney. And I've seen 25,000 cases. And that's not just me playing victim. And I don't talk about it that much, but I've done a video on my baby's mom's attorney, and on YouTube I have a video with another attorney, and I throw my baby's mom's attorney in there. My baby's mom's attorney would lose cases on purpose for women clients, and they would go broke. And he's like, "Oh, you poor little thing, you can come live with me. You know what? You can work your bill off by just doing free legal secretary work in my home." So he lost on purpose so they would be destitute and desperate and come live with him, and he probably secretly videotaped them, and then. This is a hideously ugly crypt keeper looking guy. I used to say in court papers and in letters to him that he looks like a white trash version of Herman Munster. And it's the only way he can get a woman outside of his wife. His hideously ugly wife. And so I even told him and the judge they both have hideous ugly wives. That's why they hate me, because I date really beautiful women. And whether you like what this looks like or not, it's fact. It's just what happened. So, that being said, so even as a custodial parent, I still have my issues and problems, but I could have navigated it better and totally avoided court in some ways, but, I wouldn't know everything that I know, and it wouldn't benefit you guys. So anyway, it's my hell turned into a blessing for other people. So back to the 50-50. Missouri's 50-50 law that Mark Ludwig gets all excited about. I think he brags about being influential in like 2 or 3 of the 50-50 laws. There's like 5 states that have them. We presume 50-50, and then the court has to go through all these factors, and then at the end it says if the judge doesn't think 50-50 is in the best interest of the child, he could throw that out. They don't just have a clause that you have to prove that there's domestic violence or child abuse. They said if the judge feels like it's not in the best interest of the child. So now we're back at the vague best interest of the child. Another thing that my sister with Down syndrome would veto because these guys aren't as intelligent as her. Can't even read the law that you're signing into and use deductive reasoning and figure out. But see, all these guys lost and got creamed in court. They don't know what it's like to look on the winning side of stuff, so they can't even think outside of a loser's mentality. And then they say, well, we got a lot of momentum and it's really happening, James, and blah, blah, blah. And this is why these guys hate me. I got custody of my kid now. I'm helping guys win now. I'm helping guys get 50-50 now. I'm not waiting on some legislature and some laws that say start off with a presumption of 50-50. In Jim Crow South, if you're a black man accused of raping a white woman and you're innocent, you start off with the presumption of innocence. But do you think when the judge is a KKK wizard and half the jury is in the Klan and he orchestrates the jury selection to be all white people who hate black people, do you think everything's going to be fair after that first presumption? The first presumption of 50-50 doesn't mean jack squat. What they should do is have 50-50 unless there's a criminal conviction of domestic violence, molestation, child abuse. Those are crimes, and the way we prove those crimes is beyond a reasonable doubt in criminal court. You don't get those due process rights in civil court. They've skirted around it. But you still get your life, liberty, and property taken away, your house, your child support, and your kids. You're not fixing anything with this presumption of 50-50. You utter, low IQ, brainless, ballless,
coward biatches. Wake the F up, Mark.